Yo, what is up guys, Grim here, and in today's video we're going to be talking all about tattoos. I've gone ahead and whipped up a massive spreadsheet here with every single tattoo on it. And I've also gotten together with another very experienced PoE player, Elisha, and I've assigned an initial ranking to each of these tattoos, which might give you guys a bit of an idea of how strong they could be. But keep in mind, it's only day 2 roughly right now, so we don't have a great idea of how everything might play out, so treat this as a preliminary ranking, which could assist you with getting a few ideas or choosing what you might want to sell or buy in terms of rewards. So overall, this is going to be a great tool for you guys. We're going to cover it in a little bit here. But I also want to give you guys a bit of information about how I'm personally using tattoos right now and how you guys can investigate some tattoos you might want to use as well. So let's dive into game. So right now I am using a ton of tattoos on my passive tree right now. And if I had a little bit more time, I would actually buy a whole lot more. And I'm probably going to do that after this video here. Right now, tattoos aren't really seeing too much use though. Most of the tattoos are anywhere between 1 to 5C, and people aren't responding to selling them because they're so cheap, and there's not a whole lot of people using and supplying them right now. So it might be a bit difficult to get your hands on them, but if you get in quick, you can get some serious bargains on a lot of the strongest tattoos. So I definitely recommend looking into it. So the tattoos I'm using right now are actually +4 all attribute tattoos here. Now, the reason I'm using these is actually to fix a problem with my build, and tattoos are actually a great way of doing that. Let me give you guys the information here. So I am playing a ranger build, but I'm playing a ranger build with a unique amulet, and that unique amulet just happens to give a ton of dexterity, but I have to use it. And overall, the TLDR is my character just has an overabundance of dexterity, and being a ranger, all my travel nodes are dexterity. Meaning I have so many wasted stats and it's a big problem. Now, my character also has another problem. I have massive intelligence and strength requirements and I don't have a good way to get those. And I have to waste a bunch of points on silly attribute nodes here, like strength, and before I was using primal spirit to get the attributes from this as well. So overall, not great. So what I've done is I've used tattoos to transform my +10 dex nodes into +4 all attributes, giving me a ton of strength and intelligence to fix my attribute problems here, and not at the cost of too much else. So I was able to solve a massive problem with my build, but also by reallocating points I don't need to use anymore, I was able to gain a massive power spike as well. And I highly recommend you guys look into the effects of the tattoos and try and achieve a similar effect as well on your build, especially if you have a glut of attributes which you aren't using or needing. You should turn them into something else which can benefit you far more. And let's talk about those tattoos then. Let's take a look and see what you guys might be interested in and give you guys an idea of how to acquire them. Alright, so this spreadsheet here has every single tattoo in the game and their effects, but not only that, their also exact name. This is useful so that you guys can easily find any of the effects that you might be interested in, but also how to find it exactly on the trade website. Let me give you guys a demonstration because it's normally super duper hard to find tattoos that you want on trade. So once you find a tattoo that you're interested in, let's say this one here, 2% chance for enemies to explode, Control C the name, just come over to trade here, Control V, and you are off to the races. There it is, 4C for the explode tattoo. You can buy it as you see fit here. But not only that, we've also included the ranking system from earlier to give you guys a bit of an idea of whether or not you might want to pick it up when you see it in the Trial of the Ancestors reward tab, if it's worth anything maybe, but also so you guys have a bit of an idea of where you can start to look for things which you might be interested in applying to your trees. Don't treat this ranking system as fact. It's going to be updated, it's going to be changed as people discover new techs and new interesting things. So just a bit of guidance there for you guys. Now, there is one additional thing which I want to point out with these tattoos. Everything is as it seems, but there is a special requirement placed on any tattoo which says Makanga. Makanga tattoos are incredibly powerful versions of tattoos of each of the different clans. Every clan has one, but they are so powerful that they also do have an additional requirement. Now, there's no cap on how many of you can have of them, but the additional requirement is quite brutal. So let me show you guys what that requirement is. So this one here, Tattoo of the Namahu Makanga, replaces a small strength passive skill, but grants +1 to maximum fire res, an incredibly powerful effect. So let's take a quick look at this on trade. Now you'll notice here, it has an additional thing here. Requires maximum 1 adjacent passive skill allocated. So what this essentially means is that on your passive skill tree here, when you have a node with this Makanga tattoo, this specific one on it, it's got that requirement of it's only allowed to have one adjacent passive node. That means it's only allowed to be connected to one adjacent node here. So you can see this travel node here is connected to 2 nodes. That's no good. So you would need to, for example, take this node here and then place the Makanga tattoo here. Now, you can still get pretty insane use out of this and get really crazy and abusive with it in terms of placing it. So for example, this node here and this node here, I could allocate both of these and put the fire res or cold res tattoos here and have +1 to maximum of each of those resistances, because they would only be connected to one node here, and that is the trick. Now, each of the Makanga tattoos has generally a reasonably similar effect, but some of them have different ones. So this one here, tattoo of Hinakura Makanga, for example, has a different requirement to the one we just saw. This one here says it's got 7 adjacent passive skills allocated. So this one doesn't have the restriction of you only having 1, but it asks you to have 7. And again, adjacent means connected, meaning you need to find a travel point here which is connected to 7 other nodes. Now, those are pretty few and far between, but essentially you're looking for a node which is in the middle of everything. A good example of this one is this node here. It's connected to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's right in the middle of everything here. And this one would indeed count and be a pretty good candidate for that one there if you wanted to use it. And overall, that is going to have to be something you guys look around and track down for yourselves. There's going to be probably a lot of these different points, but they're definitely probably going to be a little bit difficult to track down. So I know there is another one here for Shadow. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I believe that's even more. Yep, that's 7. So you could put another one here if you want it. But overall, you guys are going to have to look for that yourself, because that is going to be pretty build by build basis here on how you're going to get that and track that down. Now, that is definitely a lot to take in here, but of course we do have another section of tattoos here that you must also consider, and that is the honored tattoos. Now, these tattoos are a little bit more cut and dry. The kind of node that they replace is going to be the restriction instead of having these other wacky restrictions on them. So you can see that some of them replace small attribute nodes, but some other ones of them replace big attribute nodes. So definitely pay attention to that as well before you start theory crafting with any of these tattoos. Now, what I wanted to show you guys is kind of the big potential of tattoos. I wanted to kind of go over some of the more powerful ones that we've ranked in green and purple here, so we can kind of like get a bit of the juices going here at all of the different possibilities here. So the first one I want to talk about is the explode one here. Obviously, explode is incredibly powerful, and getting access to that in any amount that you choose to want is also pretty enticing. Now, it is strength passives though, so that is definitely a bit hard to get for characters like Witch and Ranger, which are generally the ones who want to have explode. But it is definitely a pretty interesting potential kind of tattoo set there, which you guys could look into there. Of course, all the max res tattoos will find their uses for players who want them, but specifically the +1 to max fire res could be pretty good for RF if you can track down positions to put it in. Obviously, plus curse effect is going to be crazy for curse bots and anyone using curses. And then there's other ones here, like for example, this one here is flask effect. That's crazy. You can get some really abusive stuff going on with flask effect, and you can have as many of these as you can fit in your build. Pretty enticing as well. Cooldown recovery rate. My god, what are they thinking? Cooldown recovery rate is great for cast on crit or any sort of trigger related playstyle, so that's going to be pretty crazy as well. Now, this one here is one of the first ones which I've seen actually people buying and selling for divines. +1 to proj. That is an absolutely ridiculous effect, and overall 8 divines for that. Yep, I mean, it makes sense. It's literally a free +1 proj, and every ranger is pretty much going to have a place that they can put that here. Pretty much everyone is going to be taking these nodes here just because their build normally takes them, so you just get a free +1 proj, bang, right there. And, you know, that's just crazy. So that's definitely going to demand a ridiculous price. 8 divines, you know, I mean, it makes sense, right? That's definitely pretty crazy as well there. All right, what else we got? We've got life regeneration right here. That's obviously insane for Berserk and also insane for any sort of RF build. That's pretty crazy. And then some of the other ones we have down here, we've got some pretty crazy honored tattoos here. Rarity is going to be pretty interesting for people doing MF. Global defense is obviously pretty crazy for things like armor stacker and stuff like that. Increased life, never going to go wrong with that. And then we have a ton of other ones here like reservation efficiency. We got effect, aura effect as well. +1 to strength gems, obviously great. +1 to max fire res and +1 to endurance charge. We have that for both frenzy and power charges as well. Pretty much everyone's going to try and get some of these in some capacity, I imagine. We've got fortify for free, which is pretty great. We also do have Onslaught and Arcane Surge for free if you want to go ahead and grab them. So overall, pretty damn insane. There's a lot of tattoos here which are just free raw power, which auto includes on a lot of builds. So there's definitely going to be pretty big, pleasing things you can do with tattoos, no doubt about it. Now, there is also some other ones which could, help out your build in specific scenarios, like suppression. If you needed to get suppression capped, that can be a game changer for some of your builds, and stuff like movement speed as well. Now, those are just kind of the headliners, which I personally noticed there. There's a ton of other ones which can be situationally good or very, very good in large amounts. A good example of that may be just, flat damage. Getting a ton of flat damage, replacing those nasty attribute nodes which you don't need with some things that you want. Another good example of that might be minion life if you were playing something along those lines, like with exploding minions. So there's a ton of possibilities. You guys can go out and explore. Definitely start looking into tattoos sooner rather than later, because right now it feels like we're in a situation where most people don't know the value of them and don't really understand how they could be beneficial to their build. So you can likely get a lot of them cheap before the economy around them becomes established. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video and it was informative, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.